Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video. And after that epic and awesome second trailer we got for Spider-Man No Way Home, before that movie reaches in theaters, to conclude, before the conclusion of the trilogy, let's talk about Spider-Man Far From Home. So Spider-Man Far From Home is the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, and it has Peter Parker going on this class trip, world trip to Europe, where S.H.I.E.L.D. finds his location, and now both Nick Fury and Mysterio are telling Spider-Man he has a lot to live up to, he's got big shoes to fill, and he's got to step up his game. So this movie is once again directed by John Watts, who did the first movie, and he's doing the sequels. And before we get into any details, I just got to put out a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this film already, I feel like a lot of people have seen this film, but if you haven't, just in case, here's a spoiler warning. Because right out the gate, we've got Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and of course he's great. And I love the fact that he remains young at heart. Not only Tom Holland himself, but also his Spider-Man. And how much in this movie you've seen, how much of a maturity, how much he's grown in this movie, and a lot is on his shoulders now. And that's because of several reasons, and one of those reasons being the death and loss of Tony Stark. And I just want to say on a side note, I don't think Spider-Man in this universe, in the MCU, is Iron Boy, Iron Lad, Iron Kid, Tony Stark Jr., Iron Man Jr., all those names that people are saying about Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I still feel Tom Holland Spider-Man is still Spider-Man 100%, no doubt about that. Of course, he's gonna have comparisons to being Iron Man and Tony Stark because he had him as a mentor and how much an effect and impact Tony Stark had on his life and the responsibilities he has now, and especially the fact that he's an Avenger and he took on fucking Thanos in Infinity War and in Endgame. So there's so many responsibilities that Spider-Man has, but Peter Parker wants to still be that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but he has so much on his shoulders too. At the same time, the world expects so much of him. Since he was a protege of Tony Stark, since he is now an Avenger, he has so much on his shoulders, he has so much weight on him. It shows, it carries throughout this film, and he wants to remain being that friendly neighborhood Spider-Man to the world. And it's going to be a little hard for him because now he's got so much expectations where what he wants and what the world wants is so much different. And I like that he's dealing with these struggles because it shows maturity, it shows growth, it shows that Tom Holland's Spider-Man is developing as a character and growing into this amazing Spider-Man. He's also coping with the death of Tony Stark. So he's maturing and going through the struggles, pulling the punches as he goes, while growing as a person. And his relationship with MJ now growing. His friendship with Ned Leeds is growing. And the many people he's meeting along the way, like Nick Fury. And the fantastic chemistry he shares with Jake Gyllenhaal. And speaking of Jake Gyllenhaal, let's get into Mysterio. And I gotta say, that was probably the best live-action Syndrome I've ever seen. I couldn't have not been the only one that noticed that. Was I the only one that saw that? There's no way. In all seriousness though, I really loved Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. And just like with Vulture, I know he's another villain that has a hatred or a vendetta against Iron Man. But I feel like that adds more weight onto Spider-Man because that doubles in their hatred for Spider-Man. Because they hated Tony Stark, and Spider-Man was associated with Tony Stark, now they hate Spider-Man even more for that matter. And of course, he is an excellent, successful MCU villain right out the gate. Not only because Mysterio is such a great Spider-Man villain, and Jake Gyllenhaal gave an excellent performance as the character, and gave a compelling and somewhat relatable arc to him, but I love the fact that both Quentin Beck and the writers that are making and creating and coming up with Quentin Beck and Mysterio played with so much, especially during Mysterio's reveal, because he's the villain. You should have expected that from him, because it's Mysterio. He loves to play tricks and play illusions and all sorts of tricks on people. And I love that the writers and the character played with that so much, of him pretending to be a hero, and he makes himself look like the hero because he feels that he is the hero that people deserve. But it's also how almost like self-aware it feels at times, because especially that line when he's explaining the story, so ridiculous and yet so believable at the same time. Like, everyone believed it. almost as if the writers were making fun of the idea that so many people on the internet were like, oh, he's from another universe, this is gonna be a clue to the Spider-Verse, and this is how we're gonna get into the Spider-Verse, and all these other things. So many people on YouTube, so many people speculated and rumored that Mysterio is actually a hero from another universe, and this could lead to the Spider-Verse, into the Spider-Verse, and so many theories and speculations that I feel the writers played with that idea, saying, you know what, let's play with that little ridiculous idea that he's from another universe. Just flip the script where it was just Mysterio trolling everyone. And the writers, not necessarily trolling people, but it almost has like I said, this almost meta little like nudge or jab at the audience, saying that like everyone bought it, even you guys that are watching. And I'm not gonna be like on my high horse for a while, but I had a feeling Mysterio was a little up to no good. I felt this was not Mysterio from the universe. I was thinking maybe this could be him playing a little bit of tricks, a little bit of like an illusion and a rouge. So I really thought that was brilliant. It was just so genius. It's funny, and I love that reveal. It was so good. And I know it's like, oh, it's a little bait and switch. It's kind of stupid, but it's a good bait and switch. And especially when you know the fact that your villain is your villain. Because it works so much on so many levels when you know your villain is your villain. So you're kind of like, okay, like you're waiting for him to just then be like, all right, time to have some fun. Like, even though he's been having fun this whole time. And the action sequences are fantastic in this movie. Some better than others, especially during the Mysterio illusion fight sequences. Those are like straight ripped out of the comics, and I love that they took the idea and they took the imagination and they just brought it to this whole weird trippy illusion mystery level to it. It was so cool. Playing with what was real, what was reality, and the visuals just had a nice little like strange trippiness to it that just made it so surreal. Location and set pieces are great and grand. The costumes are fantastic. Spider-Man's new suit is pretty cool. I like and dig the red and black design of it. That stealth outfit was really badass. My only kind of thing with that stealth suit is, why did he have to be called Night Monkey? Like, I get why he had to hide that Spider-Man wasn't around, that, oh, this isn't Spider-Man, Spider-Man's not here, and Peter Parker didn't want to bring Spider-Man along. He didn't want to have anything associated with Spider-Man to do while he was on vacation. But basically, work came with him. But I get why Night Monkey, but why the name Night Monkey? That made no sense. Like, at least maybe been called Spider Monkey? I don't know. It felt really weird, and there are some moments that were kind of a little, like, awkward at times. The elementals were pretty cool. The effects on them weren't too bad, but their designs were pretty cool, at least. On a side note, there's Dimitri, who I thought was kind of cool and very mysterious, whether he may or may not be chameleon, but I thought he was kind of cool. And, of course, that infamous post-credits scene with Spider-Man's identity being revealed to the world, and now that leads into No Way Home. And I still remember when I saw that in theaters, how much of a cliffhanger that was. That was probably one of the biggest cliffhangers in a while. I was honestly on the edge of my seat when I first saw the movie. I was like, don't do this. I was like, don't end it like this. Don't end it like this. Don't end it like this. And it just cuts, and I was like, what? And we have Talos, who's been Nick Fury for a little while, which it's kind of a little confusing, and that's another story to get into on like how long the Skrulls been imposing as S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, as Nick Fury, as whoever in the world, and it kind of leads to a bit of like continuity issues and maybe controversy. But hey, we'll find out what Nick Fury is up to in Secret Invasion, so that'll be cool. My only small and little nitpicks I have about this movie, besides the little things I might have mentioned before, is one of them definitely being this guy. I can't remember his name, but this kid right here, it felt so weird and just out of nowhere, and it felt ridiculous. Him just trying to find secrets out of Peter Parker and trying to like uncover this weird like obsession sort of situation he's trying to unravel, and he just kind of just shows up out of nowhere because of the blip. Which, speaking of the blip, I still don't know how I feel about the blip. I mean, the word the blip and how they're calling the effect that what happened in Infinity War and Endgame was called the blip. It just still sounds a little weird, and it's kind of a little silly that high schoolers came up with the idea and calling it the blip. But it just doesn't have the same ring to it as the snap, because it makes more sense. They were snapped out of existence, then they were blipped out of the universe. It just doesn't have the same ring to it. I've gotten a little used to it because they used that word a little bit in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and maybe in a few other MCU things after Far From Home, but it just still doesn't have the same touch as the snap, in my opinion. But overall, I had a blast watching this movie. I had lots of fun watching it too, even with the small little nitpicks, because they just kind of get dusted off afterwards. After they're done doing their thing, they just kind of get glossed over, which is good. And I just find myself enjoying it a lot more and more each time I see it. With how much fun this movie has, and especially with how much heart this movie has. Is this better than Spider-Man Homecoming? Well, Spider-Man Homecoming was a little bit more grounded. This one kind of takes it up a notch, kind of makes the scales a little bit more higher, but in the right ways. So I enjoy both. Both were great stories and had excellent arcs for Spider-Man and had some fantastic Spider-Man rogues. I'm going to give Spider-Man Far From Home, I'm going to give it a solid A. So Spider-Man Far From Home, have you guys seen it? What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please smash the like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, if not every week. Make sure you ring that bell. I do new videos every day, if not every week. Share the video with family, friends, all that good stuff and more. Leave some suggestions in the comments section. You name it, I'll look into it as always. And leave some questions in there as well, so that way eventually over time I'm going to build up to a Q&A. I think most likely this is going to be scheduled for I think it's the 25th or the 26th. Whatever date it is that's after Thanksgiving. All I know is it's going to be a Friday. But hopefully you guys had a happy Thanksgiving. Let me know what you guys did in the comments as well. And look out for all sorts of reviews, some top 10s. I'm going to try and do some gaming in between all this stuff going on, and some scheduled things in the middle too. And leave some suggestions for December so we can do some holiday-related reviews, some Christmas-related things, some Christmas-related topics, all that good stuff and more. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.